Welcome to the HBCU podcast. March is Women's History Month, and the HBCU podcast is celebrating with our Phenomenal Woman series. The series features 5 episodes dedicated to highlighting women who have made great strides in their respective career fields to achieve great success. On this episode, we speak with Harriet Huell Lampkin. She's a graduate of Claflin University. Harriet is an attorney and nonprofit director. During this episode, we talk about her HBCU experience, mentorship, the business of law, and giving. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
Good afternoon. My name is Harriet, and I am a 2005 graduate of Claflin University.
Thank you so much for being a part of the HBCU podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and you are the first Claflinite on the podcast.
Here's to see you.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people thought almost everybody I would speak to on the podcast would be from Claflin, but surprise, surprise.
We can be the best, but you want everyone's opinion. But I'm biased. We're one of the greatest. We want everybody's viewpoint, though.
Absolutely. We always start off the podcast just asking everybody about their HBCU and how they ended up there. So you're a native South Carolinian. You're from Salter, South Carolina. And how did you end up at Claflin? How did you hear about it? Or just tell us all about your story and journey to Claflin.
So I knew of Claflin because I have an older brother who went to Claflin in the early 90s. But it wasn't on my particular radar. I'm going to tell you how true it is for me in HBCUs. So I'm a different world fan. So my junior year of high school, I take my highly intelligent self into the guidance office and I say, hey, I want to apply to Hillman. And my guidance counselor laughs at me, right? And she was an HBCU grad herself. I think she had gone to state. And she was like, well, Hillman was fictional. But I think what you're trying to tell me is you want to go to an HBCU. And my parents were HBCU grads, so I had grown up going to homecomings and things like that. And so she was like, well, look at some other schools. And so my top HBCU choice was Spelman. But I got to Claflin because I grew up United Methodist, and Claflin is a United Methodist school. And basically, my parents told me I was going to Claflin. And so at first I was like, oh, okay. But then I had a personal touch because I'm from Salters, but I went to King Street High School, and that's where the current president of Claflin is from, Dr. Henry Tisdale. So Claflin touched me because Dr. Henry Tisdale and his wife came to King Street, and they met with my parents and my principal and myself, and they told me what Claflin could offer me. And they told me that they wanted me to be there. And while I had gotten into the Spelmans and the Howards and the Hamptons, the presidents of Spelman, Howard, and Hamptons didn't come to my house and sit down with my mom and my dad and tell me what they could offer me. So that personal touch was so amazing to me that I signed on the spot with them that day. And the rest was history, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Nice. Now, this is the kind of story that makes me so excited because I've always tried to tell people about Claflin University and how much of a family atmosphere it is. And we hear that all the time related to other people's HBCUs. But Claflin is a close-knit family and community like none other. And I think your story, of course, proves that. Like, whose president comes and sits down and recruits students? That is amazing.
My mind was blown. I was just like, wow. Like, that solidified it. And it wasn't just a recruitment effort. Like you said, we were a family. When I got there, it was the same type of attention. I mean, I've been out of Claflin now for 8, almost 13 years. Alice Tisdale, President Tisdale's wife, was just texting me Mimi's last night. And so it's like the relationship is solidified forever. They care about you, forever.
Absolutely. So your family also are HBCU grads. You said your brother went to Claflin. Did your mom and dad also attend Claflin?
They didn't go to Claflin. They went to South Carolina Area Trade School, Denmark, and Voorhees over in Denmark.
Okay. Nice. So a whole HBCU family legacy. I love that.
Definitely.
So of course, while you were at Claflin, I was at Claflin. We happened to take some classes with one another, so we do know one another. And you were a mass communications major while you were there. and you are currently an attorney because you ended up going on to receive a master's and then go and pursue your Juris Doctorate. So how did you end up deciding you wanted to go into the field of law?
Always known that I've wanted to be a lawyer, even before I got to law school. And here we go back to these TV shows. So I wanted to be Claire Huxtable. I realized that in third grade. And so, shout out to Bill Cosby. Despite the allegations in later years, what he did for TV and the African American culture was amazing. I know it had a positive effect on me. So I wanted to be Claire Huxtable, right? And she was a lawyer. So I knew I wanted to be an attorney. And so when I was looking at schools for undergrad at the time, Claflin did not have a pre-law major. But I've always had mentors. And so I had some folks saying, well, you can do English if you want to go to law school or something like that. But you can go to law school with any degree. But I had a mentor tell me to major in communications, because what lawyers do is we communicate concisely, effectively. So the better your communication skills, the better attorney you would make. So Claflin had a mass comm major. So even though I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, I went to Claflin and I declared mass comm as a major.
Okay, nice. Now, one of the things I thought was really awesome that you said in your answer was that you had a mentor. And talk about for a second mentorship and how valuable that was for you as you went through your college experience, because a lot of people kind of don't jump onto the mentorship bandwagon until it is a part of their career.
Man, I tell young folks when I get blessed to speak all over the place, but if I ever get to talk to a group of young people, mentorship is essential. There's an old saying, don't reinvent the wheel. And the beauty in having someone who has achieved what you desire to achieve, they know the pitfalls, they know what works. If you can find someone who's successful at what you desire to be, I always share, take the time to talk to them, ask them how they did it, ask them what they would have done differently, ask them what advice they would give to you, because it fast tracks you. Because if I can ask someone, what did you do to get there? And you can tell me what to do and what not to do, then you're saving me time. And I'm going to get there a whole lot faster and be a lot better as I'm going through it. And once I get there, because someone else is showing me the way. So everyone needs a mentor. In my life, I have 3 mentors at all times. I have a professional mentor, I have a spiritual mentor, and I have a personal mentor. And, different people fill the roles at different ages in my life, but I found that it works exceptionally well. And it's really, really helped me personally, professionally, and spiritually.
We're going to kind of hop into more about your career and where you've landed as an attorney. Now, I was reading your bio, of course, all the information that you sent over, and you're licensed to practice in both North Carolina and South Carolina. And it looks like it keeps you super busy because you have so much going on. But tell us about your work as the Executive VP of Legal Affairs for the Charlotte Housing Authority, as well as what you do, the work you do with the Lampkin Law Firm.
Oh, man, I'm so blessed. So in Charlotte, I'm one of the youngest executives probably in the Charlotte area. At age of 31, I'm 34 now, but at 31, I got blessed with an executive vice president job of a company with about probably, I don't know, maybe 300 employees, about 22,000 residents that we serve, and a real estate portfolio with $500 million worth of real estate. And so in Charlotte, in the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, we provide affordable housing, which is a critical needs area, because the average 1-bedroom apartment in Charlotte is going for between $1,500 a month and $2,000 a month. And when you're talking about a need for affordable housing, you're talking about families that have zero income, or you're talking about people that make $12,000, $14,000 a year. So there's really a need for people to have decent, safe, affordable housing. I'm not so much on the touchy-feely side of the housing and the social issues. I am more corporate with it because we are running a real estate business. So I am overseeing in-house counsel for employment matters, construction law, real estate closings, and all of those things. So I do high-level legal work for the government in that company. But it's an amazing job. But at the end of the day, the work that I'm doing is helping people have a better life. So I feel good when I go to sleep at night because I'm helping people have a better life, no matter how challenging or how tough or how detailed the work can be at times. So it's really cool what I do in a day at my day job at Charlotte.
Oh, wow. Now that is major because affordable housing is one of the things that are that's on top of the list of topics in the political atmosphere all the time. And it's amazing that you're doing that kind of work in Charlotte. And with it becoming one of those major cities, I know the need for affordable housing is more and more dire each day.
Definitely.
So how does what you do at the Lampkin law firm, is that different, or is it a totally different side of law?
So I take the skills and things that I'm learning in Charlotte, but I'm serving a different population in my firm. So in my day job, like I said, I'm doing corporate work, right? It's benefiting people, but the work that I'm doing is corporate work. In my firm, I'm touching people. So in the Lampkin law firm, I started primarily working with churches, right? So I represent a good deal of churches, and God is blessing me. More and more churches are coming on to our firm, and we're dealing with churches in general counsel positions because churches are becoming businesses, right? Churches now have schools and daycares, and they have affordable housing. Churches have credit unions. So I started representing churches, and from representing the churches, now the parishioners in the churches are coming to me with their legal concerns. So I'm doing personal injury, I'm doing family law, I'm doing employment law, small business owners. My husband's in entertainment in the gospel industry. I'm doing entertainment law with gospel artists. And so God just has given me a plethora of opportunities for work, and I'm grateful.
Awesome. So you are multifaceted, Harriet. Like I feel like you're touching on almost every aspect that
I do everything but criminal. That's what I tell people. Like it's like I'm starting to do everything but criminal law. So it's cool. Never a dull moment. Not a lot of sleep. But we thank God for this season of fruitfulness.
Awesome. Now you've worked in law for what would you say about 7 or 8 years now?
7 years. Yeah, I've been out of law school 7 years.
Now, what is one of the most common misconceptions about your particular field?
Everybody, when I always heard where you gotta be careful with lawyers. Lawyers are liars. Have you ever heard that? Lawyers are liars?
I have heard that before.
And I'm so faith-based, so Christian, but there are some shady ones. I'm not gonna front. But I tell in my personal life, in my own firm and at work, I offer legal guidance from a kingdom-minded perspective. If you follow me on social media, people laugh and joke and tell me all the time that I have a Facebook church. I got a Facebook congregation, and I take those same practices and I apply it in my business dealings. So one of the biggest misconceptions that I've heard in law is that, they're unethical, they're liars. But I've met a lot of good lawyers. And so I'm trying to rebrand the image of lawyers, saying, hey, we are believers and, we can get things done and be on the up and up. So that's one of the myths that I heard about my profession is that I am trying to demystify by being honest and upfront and open.
Nice. And I do follow you on Facebook, and I am a part of the congregation.
Yeah, definitely. I got another calling. So whenever God gets done with this law thing, I'll tap into this ministry gift that I feel weighing heavily upon me.
And I love it because sometimes social media can be a place of such negativity, and it's always refreshing to see someone who is, just sharing a piece of their life and then also encouraging people in the same breath. That's always great to see and read. And you just never know how and who it might be touching that particular day because of the reach of social media.
Exactly.
Okay, so being in the field of law, there are so many pioneers that have either graduated from HBCUs or gotten their education from HBCUs who've kind of led the charge that's responsible for a lot of the civil rights and rights that we have today. So as a person in that profession, who are some of your heroes, idols, that kind of thing?
In the profession of law, let me start with Claflin, and he just passed away recently. Chief Justice Ernest A. Finney. He was the first African American on the Supreme Court in South Carolina, and he's also a Claflinite. I remember I got to meet him. Mrs. Tisdale and Dr. Tisdale introduced me to him my freshman year of college and told him I wanted to be a lawyer. And, I got to sit and I got to talk with him. And I think maybe back in 2011, I got to get with him again. This is after I had finished law school. Claflin's Legacy, I think it's a Legacy publication. They did a spotlight article on Chief Justice Finney and myself. It was like, the future and the past. And it's just like, to be involved in a living legend like that, to have him give me guidance and pointers, that was a huge blessing. So Chief Justice Finney is the one I think of at the top. A million people that I admire, look up to, but I'm going to stick with that one as being the most meaningful to me. Chief Justice Finney.
I saw recently, and maybe this was last year, that you participated as a panelist with the National HBCU Pre-Law Summit, and you spoke, or I don't know if you spoke or gave a workshop regarding lawyers and entrepreneurship, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and coming from that vein, because I know a lot of people don't realize when you start out or venture into starting a firm that you're becoming an entrepreneur or business owner. So what was that like, and what tips do you possibly have for people who are going that route?
Man, I'm still learning every day, because it's like you said, when you start out and you do your own thing, you become a business owner. And so my business is growing so rapidly. I'm having to learn on the cuff because I don't have a business degree from anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a lot of trial and error, but this is where mentorship comes into play, right? So I have a mentor who started a firm, who knows the ins and outs, who's connected me with the CPAs and the tax people. And so it's a lot of, you need to be knowledgeable. I tell anyone, if you're going to do anything, you have to research. So it's like, let me give you an example. I could be a good baker, right? I can make really good cakes. But if I want to open a bakery and have my cakes make me some money, then I'm going to have to learn how to run a business. And so what it is, whatever gift that God has given you, mine is practicing law. So now I'm learning about staffing. I'm hiring people. I'm offering benefits. It's a whole lot of stuff that I didn't think that I would ever really need to get into. You know what I mean? But it's reading, it's seminars, it's workshops, it's mentorship, and a whole lot of prayer. But I just research what you're doing, right? Because you want to be efficient at it, you want to be good at it. And my mother used to always tell me, education is not knowing everything; it's knowing where to find the answers, right? And so if you can be resourceful enough to kind of assess what you need and get you some guidance and some help, it'll help you with formulating that. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned several businesses, gas stations, car dealerships, liquor stores, nightclubs, all types of things. And like, he passed away probably almost 2 years now. So now that I'm doing my own business, there's so many things that I wish that I could ask him, so much advice I wish that I could get from him. And it's like, I missed that opportunity because I didn't see myself being a business owner. But get you some mentorship and some people who know, who've been there, who can tell you, hey, you need to do this and you need to consider that. And so I'm learning on the cuff. So I don't have a more detailed answer for that one. Ask me in 3 years. Hopefully I will have learned some more. But I'm learning as I go.
No, I think that's the perfect answer, because everybody I've ever spoken to who is in business, entrepreneurship, they say it is continuous learning, just like life. And, with things changing and different things coming into play every day, you're always learning something. I'm sure people from the late 80s and the introduction of the internet had to start to learn, how do I incorporate this into my business? So I think your answer was perfect. Perfect.
Cool.
There are probably some students who are listening, we're hoping there are, that probably want to get into law, but they think that your educational background, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, is if your educational background isn't in line with what you would typically see, then maybe it's not the place for you. So you didn't major in political science, you majored in media. And I also know someone else from Claflin who, became an attorney, and her background was biology. But like, what type of advice do you have for students who, ultimately see themselves in law, but might be in the same place where there isn't a political science major or something?
So the beautiful thing about law, you can find the law in every field you could possibly go into in your career life. So you don't have to come from a certain background to go to law school. When I was at law school at UNC Chapel Hill, I had classmates who were engineers in their previous lives. I had classmates who had degrees in fine arts, professional ballet dancers. The thing about law, if you want to be a lawyer, two things. You need to be able to, three things. You need to be able to speak well, okay? Public speaking is important. You need a really great reading comprehension, right? The ability to read things and analyze it and solve problems, and the ability to write well. And you can get those three things from almost any major, right? So you don't have to pigeonhole yourself to pre-law or poli-sci or something of that nature. Just excel at whatever major you have and make sure you're good with reading comprehension, with writing, and with public speaking. You can do those things, you can go to law school.
Okay, so now we're going to shift a little bit into giving, and we'll talk a little bit about HBCU giving in a moment, but you're no stranger to giving. You and your husband have a nonprofit, the Jeffrey and Harriet Lampkin Foundation. So tell me more about the type of work you all do there.
Okay, the Jeffrey and Harriet Lampkin Foundation was just birthed out of the fact, like you said, my husband and I are givers. We were givers before we knew each other. We're givers now that we're together. So we started out, my husband is into the arts. I shouldn't just say him, I'm into the arts as well. People don't know this, but I'm a classically trained pianist. And so I love fine arts. I love music. I love children. Jeffrey and I are from very rural places in South Carolina. He's from Manning and Clarendon County. I'm from Sauces over in Winsburg County. Very poor areas, not a lot of resources for children, right? And so God has blessed us tremendously. And so we like to share the resources that we have. So we started out doing summer camps for kids. Free. Everything is free. We go out, we get kids for a week or two, we bring them in, we introduce them to the arts. And that's grown now. We've done that now for maybe 4 years. And then beyond that, we're learning that food is a problem a lot of times. So a lot of times children get meals at school, and then when they go home, a lot of folks don't have food to eat. And so we do a feeding program where kids are taking home bagged lunches. We do that. I'm with this law thing. I do estate planning workshops because a lot of times in the Black communities, when we pass away, we die without wills. If you've ever lost a loved one and had to probate anything in the state of South Carolina, you learn how hard it is to get anything done without having a will or those documentations. So I go around the state, started in churches, and now I'm meeting in gymnasiums and in high school cafeterias. And me and my legal team, we give out free wills, free power of attorneys, free living wills. We're giving out $1,500 estate plans for free to anyone who signs up and comes. So Jeffrey and I, we just use this foundation as a vehicle to use the gifts that God has given us to give back to the communities, not just where we come from, but just to African American communities, because we really do this thing across South Carolina. And we just wanted to get bigger and better, man. Education, we're trying to educate our folks, the children and the elderly. I'm about to start doing life skill workshops because I see a lot of times in my personal practice, money management, basic things like checking account, getting away from payday loans. There's like a lot of African Americans don't know things that we should know that help us be better with credit and auto loans and all interest rates. And so that's our next wave. We're going to do life skill workshops. And so we're just really trying to give back and educate the community. That's what we're doing with our foundation.
That's amazing. I had no idea how diverse all the offerings were that you guys have at your nonprofit. So Will's a huge thing in our community. I love that you guys are giving the information necessary for those, because it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about how everybody has heard that, lawyers lie. We have a lot of myths out in the African American community. And I love that what you guys are doing with your foundation. You're not only debunking those myths, but you're also giving them the tools to go out and educate themselves.
Definitely.
The Jeffrey and Harriet Lampkin Foundation only serves South Carolina.
But right now, we're in South Carolina. But as the Lord grows us, we'll go anywhere we get the call. But right now, we've been from the upstate down to the low country. That's where we've been for the last 4 years. But you're in Augusta, right?
Yes.
If you were to say, Harriet, I want you to come do your wills workshop at my church in Augusta, I'll be on the road one Saturday coming to Augusta. Like it's like that. Wherever there's a need, wherever we get the call, if we can meet the need, we'll be there.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. Well, congratulations on what you guys are doing. This is definitely always a necessary just information that's always needed. So we thank you for what you're doing. So still in the giving vein, we're going to talk a little bit about giving to HBCUs because that's always a hot button topic. But I know from being at Claflin and working with Claflin, of course, you're a giver to our great alma mater. But as far as giving, what does that look like for you when it comes to your HBCU?
Oh, man, I was so blessed. I went to Claflin on a full Alice Carson Tisdale Honors College scholarship. I think they bought my books and all. I think it came up to like maybe $80,000 over 4 years. And I went to college a very long time ago. So I went to college my first semester in 2001. So I started college 17 years ago. And I was so blessed by that opportunity to go to school for free. And I didn't realize how much of a blessing a full scholarship was to college until I had to go to law school and borrow $100,000 in student loans that I'm still paying back every month. Help me, Jesus. And so it's just like, now that God is blessing me, I give back to Claflin because Claflin gave so much to me. And Mrs. Tisdale's motto when we were in honors college, she started our freshman year, was Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, much is required. And so now I give voluntarily and freely. And as the Lord gives me more money, I will give more back to Claflin. Miss Tisdale calls me. I told she was on the phone with me the other day. She does her first lady hat and glove tee. And she was like, hey, I want you to donate a Louis Vuitton bag so I can do a raffle. And we're going to use the raffle money for scholarships. And we're going to raffle off this bag that I want you to give. And so I give to Claflin with a cheerful and a joyful heart, man, because I see what the university is doing with the money. I see the caliber of students that they are producing. I see what they are offering. And so it's just like, yeah, I want to give to Claflin because I want Claflin to be around 100 years from now. And it takes some money. You know what I mean? And so it takes money. So I give whatever I can. And if they need me to come in person, I show up with my time, my talents, and my resources. So that's how I view giving.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love, again, just the relationships that you talk about and how those relationships connect back to giving, because there was a rapport, of course, that was built while at Claflin. And of course, you still have that today. And that usually leads into being called to do things that is in a giving spirit. So you've done things like, of course, come back for
what they call it, man? Images of success.
Yes, images of success and talking to students and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Claflin's been good about that. I try to do images of success every year. I think one year in 2011, they brought me back to be the Founders Day or the Honors Convocation speaker. So yeah, they called me to come back. So I'm always elated whenever Claflin calls me to come home. It's a good feeling.
What would you tell your fellow alumni or just alumni in general when it comes to giving to encourage them to give?
Man, my thing is just support. There's no number that's too small, right? And so just imagine what it would look like if everybody gave whatever they could, $5, $20, $100, $1,000, wherever you at personally. Support, man. Give back. Like I said, we know what it meant to us when we were there. And so we wanted to thrive and to do better. So I encourage everyone, even if we're just on the yard tailgating at homecoming, give something. Give something. Everyone can give something, you're right? And so I just think it's a mindset that we need to have to just support. Claflin is where I've started, but I was blessed. I left Claflin. I went to school at Cornell, at Penn State, and at UNC Chapel Hill. And my white colleagues at these majority institution, alumni giving is like major. You know what I mean? And they have bigger numbers, but like students give back. And so I just want us to bring that same mentality back to HBCUs. And I think Claflin does well, because I think that Claflin has one of the highest alumni giving rates amongst HBCUs, if I'm not mistaken. But the numbers can definitely increase and we can do more. So I would just tell my colleagues, give something on a yearly basis, give something. I would encourage that. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just give something and make sure it's consistent.
Nice. Okay, so now, since we're talking about Claflin, we're going to talk, about some of the fun stuff. Of course, campus life at Claflin and some of your HBCU experience. So what would you say was your undergraduate experience like at Claflin? Some of your favorite memories?
Man, if I had to sum up my undergraduate experience at Claflin in one word, it would be epic. Epic. They tell you colleges are the best years of your life. I tell young people, believe that. Some of my most memorable moments at Claflin, gosh, I had so many. Classes were fun, but I think campus life at Claflin began on the yard, in the dorms, the friendships that you made, you know what I mean? The traditions that you had that were strictly to Claflin, because we went to school in Orangeburg and there wasn't much to do at Orangeburg, but I always wanted to be at school because school was fun. So the friendships, being Greek changed my college experience to a whole nother level. And you're Greek too, so I'm sure you experienced those same things. The bonds, the love that I got from professors, like the family situation at Claflin was real. If it was Nita and the calf, or yeah, you know Nita, right? Like I can go back to homecoming and Nita still remembers me. The faculty that cared for you like they were your own parents and your own family. Just the love, the love. Claflin was a whole lot of love, and like that it was a lot of fun. We got our work done, but we had a lot of fun, and we did become one huge family. And I love that. The yard shows, homecoming, all the good stuff, man. It was just a lot of fun.
Yep. Absolutely. And one of the things I love that you said also and brought up is that, friendships, because I'm not sure what it is about college where the friends that you meet there end up, being with you a lot longer than those that you maybe had in high school. Because I have so many friends still from Claflin that I feel like I met them, when I was younger. Like, and when I say younger, I mean like, a kid. It just seems like we Yes, he's like, we known each other forever.
I think the difference between high school friendship and college friendships, at college, we were a community. We lived together. We went to class together. We ate together. We played together. We probably went to church together. It was a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? We were a community. It was like we was all we had, right? And the bonds that we formed during those times will last a lifetime.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you can't talk about your HBCU undergraduate life without talking about homecoming. And I tell people all the time, Claflin, we had a basketball homecoming because we didn't have a football team. We don't have a football team. But what are some of your favorite homecoming memories from Claflin?
Oh, man. All right, so I'm taking back to when I was at Claflin. It was the whole week leading up to homecoming when we were in school on the yard. You had your dorm step show. You had, I think when we was there with me, I had a comedian a couple of times. It was going to the game. It was being on the yard. When I wanted to be Greek, when I was still undergrad, hadn't had a chance to pledge yet, it was watching the Greeks and being excited and waiting for your opportunity. And once you did pledge, it was like, oh my gosh, it took homecoming to a whole nother level. So it was just the camaraderie, the friendship, everyone coming back. It was just fun. It's like I've been out of school a long time. I think I've missed 2 Claflin homecomings in the almost 13 years that I've been gone. It's like I go back every year because homecoming is it. Like it is just, I look forward to it every year. It's like a huge family reunion. I think I love everything about it. I never made it to the parade a lot because I was usually sleeping in the morning, but everything else I pretty much caught up with it. It was a good time.
Speaking of undergraduate and homecoming memories, weren't you a part of the Student Government Association and kind of responsible for planning a lot of the activities?
I was. And so, we got to, we spoke for the student body. And I think that the administration at Claflin was pretty good about listening to what we desired and what we wanted to see and allowing us to implement those things within reason. So it was cool to be able to assist in planning what we were going to do.
I think that's one of the things that makes the memories so fun, because I realized looking back that Claflin and the administration, they really kind of, let us do what we wanted to do, and that's why everybody has such exciting memories, because it was kind of like a for us by us, type homecoming activities.
It was definitely.
Harriet, of course, thank you for being here. I still have maybe one more question just to wrap this up. And that is, if you could encourage a student to choose Claflin or any other HBCU, what would you say?
I tell young African American students this all the time. I mentor a lot of kids, or I just come in contact with them. And I said that there is nothing like an HBCU experience. And not just the experience. Yes, it's going to be fun. You're going to have a good time, but you're also going to get a quality education. And what my HBCU experience did for me was it prepared me for life in the real world. And yes, I was at a school where, for the first time in my life, I was someplace where my minority self was in the majority. And I could just learn, and I didn't have to worry about, we were aware of race and color and consciousness, but learning in that environment, man, it gave me like this inner strength. And Claflin really trained me to go anywhere. And I say that because I left Claflin and I went to some really good schools. I went to Cornell, that was Ivy League. I went to Penn State. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and I excelled there. But it all came from my Claflin foundation. What my HBCU experience taught me was how to compete on any stage with anybody in the world. So I tell kids, if you get an opportunity to go to an HBCU, go there. Now, you can go anywhere you want to go for your graduate degree or your professional degree, but the foundation that they give at HBCUs has been working for generations, for years. And a lot of times when you look at the successful Black people in America right now, a lot of them got their starts at HBCUs. There's something to that, man. And I just said you should be a part of that. It's like a blessing. It's a gift. And if you have an opportunity to take part of one, you should definitely do it. And that's my spill. And it's not just me talking. It's what I believe because I've lived it. And it's been a blessing to me.
Yes, I love it. Well, that is superb advice, and obviously comes from the heart. And it's always great to see and hear that type of advice from someone, like you said, who has lived it. So thank you for sharing that. Now, as we wrap, are there any other things coming up for Harriet, for yourself, and where can listeners go find more information about your foundation and the other things that you are working on?
So right now, I'm saying follow me on social media. My websites are being rebuilt. So I think I've taken everything down, hoping to be up again by the middle of February. But you can find me on Facebook at Harriet Huell Lampkin. You can find me on Instagram at Harriet Huell Lampkin. I'm not on Twitter much, every once in a while, but my name on Twitter is at Attorney Lampkin. That's ATTYLAMPKIN. Follow me on social media. Like I said, websites and stuff forthcoming, www.lampkinlawfirm.com. And so, yeah, that's what I have, a digital imprint on social media. So follow along. And if you need advice, hit me up. If you need a mentor, you don't know who to ask, send me a message on Facebook. I'll point you in the right direction. I'll mentor you myself. But yeah, you can find me out there on social media.
Okay. So, listeners, if you are looking for any of those social channels, just go to the HBCUpodcast.com or go into the podcast description area, and we'll have all of the information that Harriet just shared there. So, of course, you can follow us at the HBCUpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, the HBCU Podcast. And like Harriet said, join the congregation on Facebook. Join the congregation. So, Harriet, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being the first Claflinite on the HBCU podcast.
Honored, man. Thank you for having me. Claflin has so many amazing alum. Thank you, Natasha, for considering me and for having me on. I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the HBCU Podcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.